To tip off this NBA season on FanDuel, you can choose your own rewards, which means you can play your game any way you want.
I get to choose my rewards?
Yep.
Great! Now, excuse me while I lock in.
All customers choose your own reward right now in the FanDuel app. 21 plus and present in select states. 18 plus in Kentucky. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirement, and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Did you know only 6% of people are getting enough fiber? That's why Quaker created Fiber February, a month-long movement to show your gut a little more love. It's like dry January, only easier and more delicious. Quaker has over 100 delicious options that are a good source of fiber. So go buy Quaker Oats today and join the Fiber February movement for a healthy gut.
If you've been down the baking aisle at your local market recently, you may have noticed an uptick in cooking oil options. What used to be a shelf of the basics has now exploded into a full display of options, including vegetables, nuts, fruits, and animal fat. Still, one product reigns supreme as the most consumed cooking oil in America: soybean oil. Its neutral flavor, versatility, and low cost has made soybean oil the most commercially popular option. But Sonia Deol says its abundance of linoleic acid, or LA, makes it appealing to our bodies.
It's important to remember that the polyunsaturated fatty acids, the omega-6 and omega-3s, those are considered to be essential for our bodies, which means that animals cannot make those fats themselves. Whereas most of the saturated fatty acids, they can be produced inside our bodies also from other compounds that are available.
So it's important that our diet includes these essential fatty acids. However, our inability to make them also means that our bodies automatically hold on to any linoleic acid we consume. Deol is an assistant professional researcher in the Department of Microbiology and Plant Pathology at the University of California at Riverside. She says that despite food being readily available for most Americans, our bodies still operate as if we don't know when our next meal will be.
For the longest time, humans were in the state of battling hunger most of the times, right? You were trying to get food. More people were in a state of famine than feast. But now in today's day and age, we actually have an abundance of foods that are very rich in these fatty acids, which our body still thinks that it needs to hold on to. So as a result, we actually can accumulate a lot more of these essential fatty acids than what is necessary for us just to function properly.
Which means that our bodies are holding on to much more fat than needed to survive. In fact, Deol and her co-author Frances Sladek recently published a paper that links soybean oil to America's obesity problem. The paper, published in the Journal of Lipid Research, reveals that the metabolites created when our body breaks down linoleic acid in soybean oil may be driving obesity.
Fats get broken down, they get modified, they get broken down, and they get changed into different constituents. Some of this is necessary just to process the fatty acids. It's just what the body does.
Sladek is a professor of cell biology and toxicologist at the University of California at Riverside. She mentions that some of the products created from the breakdown of linoleic acid are oxylipins. These are key molecules for promoting inflammation, reducing the body's ability to efficiently process and store fat, and driving fat gain. There are specific enzymes that create oxylipins, so for Sladek and Deol's experiment, one group of mice were genetically altered to not produce those key enzymes. Interestingly, the altered mice did not get as fat as the regular rodents when fed the same high soybean oil diet. The researchers then took it a step further to test if their hunch about linoleic acid held true, feeding a third group of mice coconut oil. Where soybean oil contains around 55% LA, coconut oil has just 2%. Again, this group of mice gained significantly less weight than the normal mice. And when they took a deeper look at the data, Sladek says there was one main common denominator across the groups.
So our collaborators looked at all the metabolites in the liver, all the metabolites in the blood of these mice, the wild type and the genetically modified ones, the ones on the coconut oil diet, the ones on the soybean oil diet. And the thing that came out, the only thing that correlated out of looking at hundreds and hundreds of these metabolites were several of these oxylipins that correlated directly with obesity.
They even repeated the test with Plenish, a genetically modified form of soybean oil that has only 7% LA.
And when we looked at what was happening to the metabolites in that case, to the oxalipid metabolites, we saw that there was lesser formation of those as compared to the conventional soybean oil, the regular soybean oil.
And the mice got less obese.
While this research shows a pretty convincing correlation, the team is unable to repeat these experiments in humans, citing ethical concerns. However, by pulling data from the USDA and CDC, they can see that correlation seems to also hold up when tracking the national rates of obesity and increase in soybean oil consumption. And while not all animal studies can be accurately translated to effects in humans, Sladek believes this is one area where we can assume the results would be extremely similar.
The need of an animal for linoleic acid is completely conserved across evolution. So the pathways that the enzymes that metabolize the linoleic acid into these oxylipins that we found that it's not the LA, it's actually the oxylipins that correlate with obesity. Those enzymes are completely conserved between mice and humans, right? So we have every reason to think that if we were to go in and take out people's livers and see how many of these oxylipins they had and try to correlate that with the state of obesity, we would see the same thing.
Deol and Sladek's animal experiments have consistently shown that feeding mice a diet high in linoleic acid will cause weight gain and obesity. What's interesting is that simply avoiding soybean oil won't necessarily keep you from consuming high amounts of LA. The vast majority of livestock and poultry in America are fed soybean meal because it's a cheap, quality protein source. But what does that mean for the people consuming these animals?
What happens then is that linoleic acid, because of the properties we said at the beginning, is accumulated and stays in the animal. And so there was, at the beginning of our studies, a little over 10 years ago, there was a paper by a group in Norway where they had farmed salmon. And they had salmon that was being farmed so they could control what they ate. Either the salmon was fed a fish meal diet, analogous to what they would have in the ocean, or they were fed a soybean meal diet. And then they took that salmon and fed the salmon to mice. And the mice that had the salmon that had been fed fish meal were fine, healthy, no obesity, no diabetes. But the mice that ate the salmon that had been fed the soybean meal diet got obese and diabetic and insulin resistant and fatty liver, just like the mice that we had where we fed them the soybean oil directly. So it's not just what you eat, but it's what the thing you eat has eaten that's important.
But that doesn't mean soybean products are bad. Sladek and Deol don't think these findings should scare people away because, again, linoleic acid is essential for our bodies to function properly. However, the average American is consuming much more LA than needed. Soybean oil is the primary fat source in processed food, including chips, salad dressings, and baked goods, not to mention all the fried options at fast food places. Next time you get groceries, check the labels. You'll be shocked to find this oil in the most unassuming products.
Being cognizant, reading what you're eating, and I think Americans are getting very good at that. And when you have those options to have something that is not based on soybean oil or corn oil or safflower or sunflower seed oil, choose the alternative. But also it's very important, do not stress over it. Stress alone by itself will aggravate obesity. So don't stress over it.
Since its use is so widespread, Sladek promotes a do-what-you-can approach. Enjoy a meal out at a restaurant, but when you can control the preparation, like when cooking at home, opt for the unprocessed options. And instead of using a seed or vegetable oil, the researchers recommend coconut or olive oil for their meals at home.
Linoleic acid, as we said, is essential. Having some in your diet is absolutely critical, but too much is not a good thing.
You can find more information about Sonia Deol, Francis Sladek, and all of our guests on our website, ingoodhealthpodcast.org. For more behind the scenes, follow In Good Health Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our writer-producer is Kristen Farrah. Our production manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Greg Johnson.
To tip off this NBA season on FanDuel, you can choose your own rewards, which means you can play your game any way you want.
I get to choose my rewards?
Yep.
Great! Now, excuse me while I lock in.
All customers choose your own reward right now in the FanDuel app. 21 plus and present in select states. 18 plus in Kentucky. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirement, and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Did you know only 6% of people are getting enough fiber? That's why Quaker created Fiber February, a month-long movement to show your gut a little more love. It's like dry January, only easier and more delicious. Quaker has over 100 delicious options that are a good source of fiber. So go buy Quaker Oats today and join the Fiber February movement for a healthy gut.